Hey guys, so I just played down one of the etudes from my new PDF package, 20 approach note etudes, that's now available for instant download on my website. That one was called Autumn Trees. I'm sure a lot of you guys recognize the chord progression there. And now I'm just going to surf through what you get here as far as the files and what you get from the instant download, just so you can check it out, and I'll surf through a few of the etudes as well. All right, so everything's real easy on my website. After checkout, you're going to get an instant download link. You're also going to get an email sent to you in an email confirmation as well, so you have it there. And you're just going to click that. You're going to get a zip file because we've got recordings in here as well. I'll talk about that in a second. And you're going to unzip it, and then you're going to have the etudes here. This is the B-flat copy, and all of these recordings. And you see all the names that we play here. I'm sure that you're going to recognize a lot of the chord changes that these songs are written on. And so check it out. I've made recordings for all of this on this one because I really wanted everyone to have a reference for how to phrase and articulate this stuff, which is going to be a really big part of what we're talking about today in this video. But before we do that, just want to open up the PDF here just so you see what you're getting. And let's see, the cover's up front, and it's all put into one PDF, so that's going to be easiest for you guys. And just scrolling through some of the etudes, you'll see these are packed with a super high concentration of approach notes and enclosures, so you can absorb the concepts as quickly as possible. So also worth noting, that was a B-flat tenor saxophone part there, but we've also made a B-flat trumpet part, E-flat alto sax, concert, and bass clef. And we've really tried to adjust the etude so it really fits well with the different ranges of all those different instruments. Alright, so for those of you who have already checked out my approach notes and enclosures exercises video, you guys know that approach notes and enclosures, they are the heart of jazz line and bebop line construction. So if you strip away this stuff, the approach notes and enclosures, you're going to see it just ends up sounding like Bach. For example, here's a 2-5-1, a major 2-5-1, with all just diatonic notes, all just notes from the chord scales. But if I do an approach note, or a line with approach notes, chromatic approach notes, and enclosures, you're going to see that it's going to sound like jazz all of a sudden. Totally different vibe. So with both of those examples, I just use solid voice leading, which is just a smooth transition from chord to chord, usually done with stepwise motion. But with the approach notes version, I added chromatic approach notes and enclosures, and that's where you can really see how that is, harmonically speaking, what really makes a line sound like jazz and not classical music. So on my last video with this concept, we went over a bunch of different exercises, which helps you get this stuff under your fingers and into your ears. And there was also a PDF package for that, 15 approach note and enclosure exercises for jazz musicians. But today, I'm going to surf through a few of these etudes. Now the etudes really put this into a real life context. And the etudes are all 1 or 2 chorus solos over standard jazz chord progressions that use a really high concentration of the approach notes and the enclosures, just so you can absorb this concept really quickly. And as I mentioned earlier, we're going to talk about the articulation and phrasing that I recommend using. Really, that's going to apply across the board, even if we just isolate some specific parts. So let's actually start there, since this is a question that a lot of people ask. So why is it that in jazz big band writing and jazz writing in general, you never see articulations written for the phrases that are written? And this in particular throws classically trained musicians for a loop. So why is this? One of the main reasons has to do with a very common jazz articulation that is just impossible to write out, or at least hasn't been designated a proper label under our current system of notation. And so this specific articulation that I'm referring to, I personally call the Duden articulation, but I hear a lot of brass players refer to it as the doodle articulation, which just has to do with the physicality of what they're voicing on the instrument. And so it has everything to do with how you articulate the ascending parts of a line. That's where we apply this articulation. So there's a total misconception that when you play jazz, all you have to do is articulate the offbeats, and that's just so not true. The reality is that anytime you're going up and the line is ascending, or the notes that you're playing are a sequence of a couple eighth notes that ascend, when you do that, the downbeats are actually going to be articulated. The downbeats, not the upbeats. And there's even this other magical element to it where you almost choke off the note before the downbeat. And so every instrument has their own way of doing this, though right now, of course, I'm going to talk about how saxophones do it. But this articulation specifically is just the articulation that when looking at both of the notes that end up getting articulated in kind of this singular motion, this is the articulation that just in jazz, they haven't figured out how to write out yet. So first, I'll just give you an example of what it will sound like on a bebop scale, and then I'll give you some more real-life examples of using the etudes that I've written. But on a bebop scale, we've just got a scale that goes straight up and down. So that is going to sound like this. So notice when I went up, I actually went doo-doo-doo-doo. I'm actually articulating the downbeats, and what I'm personally doing on saxophone, this only applies to saxophone really, is I'm actually suppressing the reed for a second. I'm going doo-doo-doo. I'm literally doing that on the reed, just as you would say doo-doo-doo and kind of suppress the sound for a second on the roof of your mouth with your tongue. You do that same thing with the reed. You go doo-doo-doo-doo, and you do that all the way up. Then when you turn around and go down, then we do that more traditional, or at least I shouldn't say traditional, but the more commonly known articulation of just doing the offbeats. So putting it all together. Okay, so all sorts of people who've used this across the board. I really think that this and variations of this are really the only way of articulating. Anyone from Lester Young to Dexter Gordon to Michael Brecker, they all used this. They just had different ways of feeling and phrasing it. So like here's an example of Lester Young on Shoeshine Boy using this. So when he's going down, he's doing the offbeats, but then he goes up there. Doo-doo-doo-doo. Then another example here is Dexter Gordon on Cheesecake. So you can hear when he goes up, da-ba-doo-doo-da-da, da-ba-doo-doo-da-da. Even that triplet is an example of using dood and doos on a triplet. But in the more conventional eighth note stuff, bo-de-oo-da, bo-de-oo-da. You hear the dood and doos and the do-da-oo-da-oos. I say a lot of times for the down for the descending stuff, where it's the offbeats. It's all there. It's just variations of all of the same stuff, no matter who you look to as a reference. Okay, getting back to the etudes here, I'm just gonna give you a visual now. So let's scroll down to Autumn Trees. That was the etude that I played in the very beginning of this video. And we'll just talk about some of the articulations that I would personally do on this. And you've got the recordings as a reference when you get the download. You've got the recordings so you can match it up with how I'm playing it there. But I'm just gonna talk about how I would conceptualize some of this stuff, because articulation, again, is a question that I get all the time. So this first line, we've got eighth notes going up, so we're going to have the doodin' articulation. Doodin' doody da. That's probably how I would articulate it. All right, we got a bunch of approach notes and an enclosure at the end. Da ba do da ya da ba. All right, check it out. So lots of approach notes there. This is a great example of, we're using a C sharp on a C major chord on a downbeat. Now, normally that would be a really funky, weird sounding thing if you use it in a context where you don't really have control over it. But here I'm actually using it in a totally melodic context. I'm not even going out with this stuff. I'm just using it as a 2-note enclosure around here, getting to the 5th. And then we've got another 2-note enclosure here into the 7th, and then another 2-note enclosure here around the flat 5 of this half diminished chord. And again, just when we have 8th notes going up, that's when we're doing the do and do. So that's really just being used across the board, that type of articulation. And, usually all of this is super straightforward. I'm not even really doing subs on this stuff. One of the few subs that you'll see in here, we've got this is really outlining altered on G7, which is a common substitution. But in general, I'm really just following the changes, and I'm just doing as many approach notes and enclosures in these lines just so you can really absorb this concept as quickly as possible. Alright guys, so I hope you've all learned something from today. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel here. And definitely check out my website as well for show dates. Everybody's always asking where I'm playing. I just finished a crazy year of touring, toured through Europe, Asia, Russia, Central America, of course all over the States. And really soon we're going to be announcing my 2019 tour dates, so stay tuned for that. But coming up already, we've got in just a few weeks here, I'll be doing I'll be a guest soloist with the Juilliard Jazz Orchestra at the GEN conference, the Jazz Educators Network conference in Reno, Nevada in early January. So for all of you at the GEN conference, make sure to come say hi. And yeah, I hope I'll see you guys all real soon, and have a great day.